Krett? Really, Krett? Oh my god.
What's up, guys? We're live here, same place, same time, different co-host. It's NShadow, eager community manager. I'm Krett, eager community expert, and we're here to bring you really with Krett and not F. It's NShadow instead. What's up, guys? How you doing today, my friend?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing lovely. I streamed since maybe 9, so I'm
I
wired.
I watched some of it.
That's good. Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm not jealous or not mad at all. All right, so it's 5:07. The stream has started. Let's get it going. And I think the topic of this week that everyone's talking about, or they should be in the SPL, is upcoming stars. And it's pretty simple. When you talk about Europe, and I think this is a conversation that we'll delve into a little bit later as well. When you talk about Europe and you say, who are the top 3 teams? Well, you go Fnatic, and then you think about it, and I go with Titan for number 2. And then for number 3, you think about it, and you're like, I have no fucking idea.
Yeah. It's always a toss-up in EU
But
for that third spot.
Fnatic is obvious. And upcoming stars beating them was a surprise. Now, I think there's a few reasons why. So I wanna get to the why. What happened there? And to an extent, I think you have to look at Fnatic and mistakes that they made that allowed upcoming stars to take advantage of that game. But what were your general thoughts? What were you thinking when that happened?
I was looking a lot at the comps because that's always something that you have to
Sure.
really strongly factor in. I think what a lot of what happened was Fnatic overvalued the Circuit pick, and upcoming stars just had an answer for it with the Ares, and really they went for that double front line that we're seeing so much more of lately. Yeah, shout outs to Guardian meta, and Ymir strength in that secondary front line there to couple with the Ares, just so much CC to keep the Circuit really locked down.
I think part of it is definitely in the jungle, right? Like, Cherio's a player that in the middle of Season 1 went from support to jungle, and now that there's a meta where he can play support in the jungle, he's at home.
Right, exactly.
That's something that we've seen out of Dare to Care as well. But I also think Fnatic made mistakes. I think they got out drafted. But... So yeah, I think the meta is part of it, right? You've got this hunter focus, you've got Guardians being very, very strong, and I don't think that's something that Fnatic was really prepared for. They went for Circuit, and they didn't really exploit it properly, which caused problems. But I think that's sort of like... I don't think that explains like why that actually happened, or at least maybe not on the deeper level. And what I think perhaps happened, and this is something that Badger said on Twitter a while back, there's a lot of pressure on you when you're the first seed. You are expected to win every game, and I don't think that's really anything that the Fnatic boys have done before in this lineup, or at least for Badger in a long time, back when he was on Copenhagen Wolves and Bipolar Method, right? Like, this is a team that is very good, but they've gotten very good over 3 seasons, over the preseason, Season 1, and now Season 2, and I don't think they're used to being on top the same way that C9 and TSM have.
Yeah, that's very true. There's definitely so much pressure to perform at the highest level consistently throughout all your games. But the only thing I think we got to be careful about when we talk about the matchup is that we don't undervalue the performance of stars, of course. While it is a lot of the story of Fnatic, maybe getting overcome by that pressure a little bit. So much of it does go to the credit of stars, I feel like.
I think stars deserve the credit, and this might be like, I don't think mean's the right word, but mean's the word I'm going to use. Mean analysis. I feel like stars are inconsistent, and I think that's safe to say.
Oh yeah.
But I think what makes stars inconsistent is they're inconsistent backwards, right? Like, in every esport, in every game, when you talk about someone who's inconsistent, they're probably pretty good, but just not all the time. I think Stars are the opposite. I think Stars are pretty bad, but sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
seen that against Trig, we've seen that against Fnatic, and that's fine, right? It's just a matter of how they can switch that on its head, how they can become more consistent, or less consistent, really, how they can become less consistently weak and more consistently strong. I really hope Stars can do it because I think it's a wonderful story. It's the second one we've seen out of the SPL like this with Agilitas, which originally was a pretty bad team. But yeah, I think it's interesting, right? A team that season 1 was pretty consistently bad, and over the course of season 2, when we saw like and maybe even late season 1, we saw like the inklings of hope, the little just hope that they would be really good and great performances and individual plays. Now that I think they're learning to go from consistently bad to consistently good. That said, looking at Fnatic, a team that's been a roster for a long time, I think there's a lot of growth left through roster changes and all that shit that everyone else has gone through.
Yeah, I think another big factor with upcoming Stars is we've seen like throughout each week, we usually see like a little bit of extremely solid performance from each player, like individually, but we never really see a cohesive effort from the team. Yeah, that really makes them shine as a unit, and I think that's what we really saw in that game 1 versus Fnatic this week. I think that's what really, changed a lot of people's perspectives of the team in general. And I'd love to see more of that out of them. Even in game 2, which they lost, they put up such a great effort and they still performed very well as a team.
I think they did, and I think part of what made them good, like, I don't think Stars are really in a situation like some of the higher tier teams, like Fnatic, where they can make plays in such a way that their opponents are forced into a mistake or put into a situation where they're likely to make a mistake. I don't think that's something that upcoming Stars are doing yet. But what they are doing well is I think when they see their opponents make a mistake, they're able to identify it, capitalize off of it, and make a play. And that's absolutely fantastic. That's something that's really cool to see from lower tier team because it's how you get the wins when you're a weaker team. As for Neckerman mentioned in chat, like upcoming Stars, if they beat Dig gets relegated. And that's a big story as well. Dig has been having a lot of trouble this season, and it's hard to say why. I think to an extent, and it's really like armchair analysis. It's sort of like psychology thing, but I think to an extent, upcoming Stars have hit the point where everyone expects them to lose, so that there isn't pressure. It's can they take a game, and when they do, it's like, hell yeah, we won a game. Whereas for other teams, it's like, we didn't 2-0. This sucks.
Right, it's the everything to lose versus,
nothing to lose with the right attitude.
Right, yeah. And I mean, they have that, like you noted, they have that playing up potential. Like, they want to be, they want to change people's opinions of them, and they have that momentum going for them. They know that they have very individually strong players, and as long as they keep the right kind of mindset and the right kind of drafts in mind, I think that the team has huge potential.
All right, and Flareboot, who probably has one of the most, like, colored histories in terms of people disliking him, says Digger, a team of veterans that are doing worse than the newbies relative to their opponents. And that's a big statement, but it's one that also, like, is true. Epindary, coach of Fnatic, going with the washed up veterans. And so
damn.
The EU scene, man.
Damn, the banter.
The banter. Oh man. And as for Dig, who have very tenured players, I hope this isn't the end for them, right? I hope they figure out what they need to change, how they can improve, because right now Dignitas, ever since relegations, has looked piss poor. And, once again, like, analyzing, it's like, I hope they prove me wrong. But that's my opinion of how they are right now. And I hope they're like, you know what? No, we ain't piss poor. You're piss poor. And they just, like, destroy. But, Dig's next three matchups, Trig, Fnatic, Epsilon. That's really hard.
Exactly. They haven't performed that well against the teams that they really need to perform well against, the ones that they're expected to perform well against. And now, how are they going to do? Kind of already beaten down here, going up against these other teams. It's kind of rough, man.
Yeah, it's true.
Other than Stars, of course, that's going to be a huge matchup, which the outcome will determine like pretty much everything with how those two teams go.
That's basically avoiding relegations for Stars and going there for Dignitas, unless something really shocking happens. But you know, early on, I mentioned with the EU scene, you say Fnatic number 1, and you think about it, you know, I think Titan number 2 is safe.
Yeah.
Who's number 3? Some people put Epsilon in there. I personally put London Conspiracy. Some people put Epsilon above Titan, whatever. But what are your thoughts? And I think the EU scene is finally getting this point where, like, yeah, man, it's sort of a big question as to who's second, who's third, etc.
Yeah, I think personally I'd agree with you. I'd go with London Conspiracy for that third spot. I just feel like you know, they're one of the newer teams as well, just starting to really get that sort of cohesiveness going with each other, and they're really bringing stuff to the table lately. Like even with what was the big event called that the HP.
Omen Challenge.
Yeah, the Omen Challenge. Even in that, like, they were shining. They're crowd favorites, and they have such a nice, like, a big fan base and things that they're really growing themselves. I feel like so much as a team in every area. So I feel like they're both performing better and showing themselves better.
It's true, but it's also important to mention that Titan hasn't played up against like their most difficult opponents yet, right? Titan's got the hardest matches to come. This week, it's Titan versus Trig, which Titan should probably win if they want to prove that they're up there. But then after that, Titan versus Epsilon, Titan versus Stars. Stars really, I think, now becoming the upset kings, right? And week 7, the perfect place for this match. The perfect place is Titan versus Fnatic. Right now, though, Titan's 6-0, and that's the best score in the EU scene, which is really kind of fascinating.
I think London Conspiracy had the potential to take a game at least off of Titan, but that being a week 1 first game sort of scenario, it's really rough. Coming in as that underdog team against someone as big as Titan before anything really gets going. They're not that comfortable yet, and it was a little rough that they had to fight them that early. So I feel like personally, had that matchup occurred a little bit later in the season, it could have went either 1-1 or possibly even in London Conspiracy's favor the way that they're playing right now. So I think, Titan has had a lot of success so far, and I'd like to see how it goes into the second half now.
Yeah, I don't know, but like, all right, so I feel like that's a decent idea of what's happening in EU. Still, like, I guess the one other thing is there's this rhetoric from the European fans, the European players. Epsilon Esports is one of the best teams in Europe. They're number 1, they're number 2, they're number 3. I haven't seen that yet, and I'm still waiting. Like,
I gotta agree, yeah.
Epsilon went, I think, 2-0 versus Stars. They went 1-1 versus London Conspiracy and 1-1 with Trig, is it? And it's just sort of like, that's not that great.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And the same way we were saying with London Conspiracy and Stars kind of gaining momentum as the season goes on, those were early matchups versus them for Epsilon. So I feel like it doesn't really establish that much of their dominance yet. I feel like some of the players on Epsilon have been a little inconsistent, like especially Emilito. You haven't been able to, I haven't been able to pinpoint where he is all the time throughout the season.
Sure.
And yeah.
On the other hand, though, like, I don't know. I'm just waiting for this Epsilon thing to happen. As Idris mentions in chat, they've lost some games because of picks, but it's like, they still lost games because of picks. And then, you've got London Conspiracy, a team that has, I think, overperformed and is finally finding a place in Europe. But honestly, I think this wasn't the most interesting SPL week. Like, in NA even, right? AFK beats Enemy. Denial beats COG. TSM beats Eager. Like, it was close, but... And C9 beats Legion. Like, nothing really too shocking happened in NA. And EU, I think the real story is, like, the stars and then catching up in the standings. But what I actually want to talk about, and I think part of this has to do with, if I remember correctly, I believe Meerkat, the solo laner for COG, is taking the SAT next weekend. So I believe he's not able to, like, play or something like that. And Smite has this interesting situation where a lot of our pro players, TSM being the perfect example, are very young. And I think that's very interesting because what do you do when you have someone who is a professional gamer and they still have to go to high school? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I have a lot of personal experience in this area because I was, a professional Smash Brothers player for Super Smash Brothers Brawl back in the day. I traveled a lot for events and things, and I gotta say, it's very, very difficult to prioritize school over gaming when you're having so much success in it. So like,
So much fun.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course. All the friends you're making. I honestly think being a part of a gaming community helps you mature a lot faster. If you're, it depends on how you go about it. Some people don't mature for sure.
Right. Some people spend all their time in Smite game chat.
Yeah, yeah. But it gives you the potential to like really broaden your horizons so much with traveling, with earning more money than another kid would from just like a part-time job at that age, things like that. And it really presents you with a whole different world than the people around you. So it starts to kind of separate yourself from the pack in regards to your other like classmates and things like that. So it's a really interesting dynamic.
All right, so I think there are two different stories I want to tell here. Story number one, Divios, right? Originally played on like an amateur team, ended up not working out, joins TR5, doesn't really work. So he played on an amateur team. He was kind of a jerk and got a little bit of a bad rap, if I remember correctly. So he changes his name to Reborn, joins TR5, which historically was like the team that good teams disband if they lose to, right? They were like the gatekeepers of being good. And that doesn't work out, but he just sort of changed his attitude. He took the game seriously and he played a lot of solo queue. And eventually it got him onto the Game Changers, now TSM.
Right.
And I think Divios grew up a lot. Or not grew up because he's still young and like that's part of who he is. That's part of his play. And not young in a bad way, but just like he's young. But he matured. I think Divios is one of the more mature players in the professional scene. He is a professional. He treats people well. He's a very nice guy. And he takes the game deadly serious when it comes down to it. And he giggles uncontrollably as he murders you.
He's very careful about what to say, it seems. Or if maybe he doesn't even have to be careful. Maybe he's just that, honest of a person. And he's like, very well-spirited and everything like that. And yeah, he's an excellent like figure for the Smite community, I think, especially for the younger scene.
Yeah, he is. I think he's a great role model, which is definitely part of it. And that's a whole nother discussion. That's a very deep discussion. But I think Divios is a story of someone who has played games competitively, and despite his age, he has made it. He has grown from it. And he is a consummate professional, which is absolutely awesome, and maybe, hopefully, can craft a future for himself through playing games and being involved in esports and Smite and stuff like that. He has a bright future ahead of him. Then there's the other side of the coin, and I think the other side of the coin is Mask.
Oh, oof, okay.
And here's my point. Mask was a fantastic player. He was a great jungler. But I think because of his age, and his immaturity, the way he acted, he his maturity sabotaged his ability to play professionally and eventually deprived him of the opportunity as he got a year-long ban. And you know, not to go into that conversation, but like the dude got banned 5 times. I've never gotten banned, and I've called people shitter, idiot, retard, feeders, and like I probably shouldn't do that, and no one should really do that. But you know, it happens. You get mad, but like it takes effort to get banned 5 times. Like you
That's
kind
what
of
people
have to
complain
try.
about it, because like they'll report people and then they'll see them in their games again and be like, why haven't they gotten banned? It's that difficult. And my man,
Well, I
really-
mean, to be fair, that's also like a flawed argument a little
yeah.
bit, because like you don't know, maybe they got a 3-day ban. Now they're back in your games.
That's true. He got
But
a year.
like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people. Yeah, there you go. Meerkat says he got over 40 reports in a month on the Ulta account that got him banned. Like,
Jesus.
you're trying at that point.
You just really don't care. You know, there's no concern for your image, especially while you're representing an organization. You know, that people, that's a big thing that kids have to understand when they sign up with, you know, when they sign a contract, man. You are now representing a brand and an organization that is very large. You know, it's a very big responsibility, and it comes with, you know, you have to be mature about it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, that's really what it is. Like, he wasn't able to be mature. And unfortunately that immaturity sabotaged his potential. He could have been really good.
Yeah,
But
phenomenal player. Like, one of the best raw talent wise that I've ever seen. You know, like when you look at like not talking about all of the players in the SPL. I'm talking about like raw talent wise in like ranked and things. Like anyone that you're just looking at randomly in a ranked game, like this kid shined all the time. He was insanely talented.
and yet, you know, I think his attitude screwed that up. So
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, last thoughts on the subject. Like, I think it's an interesting problem though, because you have people that are competing professionally. They're athletes, they're representing organizations, they're doing a full-time job. And the problem is that some people are young, and it creates weirdnesses with age, with maturity, with real life obligations that someone who is generally doing a full-time job like gaming can be, like, you know, when Lasses or whatever did full-time Smite 2 years ago, like someone who doing that doesn't have to deal with. I think that's really interesting.
Right.
To an extent, that's even worse than like sort of the game hobbyist, right? There's certainly people, probably even in the professional community. I think El Chacho, former player for Thirst and current player for High Five, I'm pretty sure like he missed an SPL game because he had to go to work one day. And like, sure, but like you sort of control your destiny there.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when you're a kid, like you can't just like not go to school.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's not a choice. And on that note, I'd like to know what Diviosis report card looks like. Do we have a copy, Krett?
I think Barracuda probably does all his homework for him.
Because, you know, you see, we're talking
Wait,
about
where's
mature...
Spiff? That's a really good
Yeah.
headline.
We're talking about how mature he is, you know, how well he's shining as a figure in the community. But I'd like to know if he is really balancing like school priorities and things well along with that, you know, because on one hand it could be so overwhelming and you can get so absorbed in your professional career that you've now made for yourself that you kind of abandon the values of like things like school and stuff. Because it's more immediate. It's right there. You're getting money from it right now, and it's you know, something that you're doing every day. So yeah, I'd like to know if that I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna get his report card.
There you go. Yeah, get his grades, and if he doesn't do well, he can't go to LAN.
Yeah.
Yo, like if we go, I'm
Yeah,
hoping.
there's no
I'm
problem.
hoping
There's no-
Divios fails those classes. Yeah.
The after party is canceled. Divios
There you go.
doesn't get at least a 3.0. Man.
The after party sketch or Divios doesn't get a 3.0. That would be awful. There would still, of course, probably be an after party in a hotel room or something. LAN events are fun, and you should go. So yeah, but I think the next conversation that comes off of this, and once again, like sort of continuing off of the baby rage, off of the Divios. I think Divios is a good role model, though, right? Like he is responsible, he's mature, he's professional, he doesn't rage. He's not on the list of people where you see them tweet angrily at Hi-Rez, like, and that's a long list. I don't think I've seen it from Divios. Maybe once. Maybe he was like, I really don't like this Guardian meta. But even then, he put it quite nicely, if I recall.
Oh, yeah. He's never like, F these guys, they're ruining my game, like, shit like that.
Yeah,
He's very polite, yeah. Very well spoken.
And I think Divios is a great role model. And so that leads into an interesting discussion of another kind. Professional players. And I also think this is interesting considering you come from the FGC, where I don't think it's the case, from what I know of, watching events like EVO and stuff. In Smite, professional players are role models. They represent the game. They represent the community. They represent their organizations. There's a lot of pressure on them to act a certain way. To an extent, I think it's understandable to say that maybe this is too much. Maybe there's too much pressure and, like everyone has a bad game. Everyone calls someone an idiot. On the other hand, they're role models. But so what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think it's too much pressure?
I think it comes into play a lot with what we were talking about, maturity. It's just the people that are going to fail in that aspect are the ones like Mass that can't handle it, and it seems like I don't know. Other than that, I think it's really a positive thing because it kind of demands you to step up to the plate and really be more, I guess. But I mean, that's kind of a double-edged sword because at the same time, anything that's demanding that much of you can also be destructive in ways. So
yeah,
I think it's a tricky, very tricky topic.
I mean, there are definitely some players that are not good role models. Weekend. Not so much. Still a great guy, but the thing is, though, like, I think it's just natural. I think it's just a part of being a professional player. Like, if you're the best Chunga player in the world, people who like Chunga are gonna look up to you.
Oh yeah.
And if you if you call people shitters, then that's kind of disappointing. Like, I don't know, man. There are some really good role models, but like not everyone is suited for it as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like you said, I come from the FGC, or not even the FGC, lower spectrum FGC. Brawl. Yeah, Brawl before Smash was even more, it's more
right now.
esports
Smash now, like you look at any FGC event, and it's like, let me look at the schedule. All right, we got Mortal Kombat, Injustice. What's that doing there? Street Fighter, that like one Tekken game from 18 years ago. And then they're like, and on our other stream, Smash.
Yeah, exactly. And now they've made it to that other stream, but back when I was playing, it was just like very, very grassroots, small events. And then, it still had its major events, but they weren't sponsored by large organizations. It wasn't, there was no like, there was maybe one Evo, things like that. It just goes to show like the impact of your decisions and things was not nearly as drastic in that kind of a community because you're only representing yourself.
That's very true.
Yeah, you don't have anyone else that you have backing you or behind you that you're also a part of. So you make your own image in the FGC. You represent yourself, and that's it. So it's quite it's quite different. It's a lot to transition into.
That's true. It is very different in that you're your own image. I mean, like an example I want to use is Dare to Care. Dare to Care has at best a sordid past when it comes to the way he presents himself publicly, and part of creating a good image for Eager has been like me reading his tweets. Or just, you know, sort of being like, hey man, remember that you represent not just yourself, you also represent us. So you have to approach things the right sort of way. Like, there are some people who did that naturally. Barracuda, very good at it. Captain Coach, very good at it. Incon as well. And there's some people that have a little bit more trouble. There are some people who don't even try. But it's I think
it's interesting to see those people like there that like you can tell that there's something that they really want to say, but they're
just don't say it.
censoring themselves, you know, and that's good. You know, he's doing a lot better of a job of trying.
I think
to censor.
it's like I think Dare is someone who wants to talk but doesn't, which is I respect him very much for.
Yeah,
there are people who obviously like just don't really give a shit, and then there are people who just don't talk like at all. They don't have that public presence.
Yeah, right. One
Cyclone's
person I feel
good.
yes. Oh my god, damn it, you got me.
Yeah,
That's
stole your
exactly what I
point.
was gonna say, man. Yeah. You
Cyclone
don't hear
like
from
just
Cyclone.
yeah, you don't really hear from him. That's not
He
who
can
he is.
be
He
the
expresses
most
himself
BM
through his
guy, and I
through
don't
his
know.
play.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's very very.
His
true.
play is pretty BM. I mean, have you seen the way he jumps?
Yeah. Yeah, his play and his image just as a younger gamer with so much raw talent, you know, it's usually people either love him for that or they hate him because he's beating their favorite teams, you know, and that's about it. You know, you don't have that much else to go by with Cyclone, at least yet. I think he's starting to become a little bit more vocal.
Sure.
He's definitely starting to you know, put himself in a better position in the community and stuff. And I've only seen good things so far. I'm not,
Mostly Volcania.
Yeah,
Mostly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Volcania. That's just yeah.
Wait,
How did we not mention
there
that
you go.
originally?
But yeah, I mean, I think part of it is learning what you want your brand to be and how to do that right. Omega, I think, is someone. Omega got like permanently banned for being an asshole, but it was before there was a rule about that. He's the reason there is one. Like Omega, they didn't have a rule that was like, if you're permanently banned from Smite, you can't play competitively. So he was allowed to play on a Smurf, and then they made the rule. But, excuse me. But Omega has since then honed his image into, he's not really BM.
Right.
I'd say he is bad-mannered. But like BM has this slightly different connotation, and he's just sort of like the bad boy of Smite.
yeah.
Right.
He has that overwhelming confidence too, and he has that kind of aura around him that like either when you're going against him or when you see him in the room, like he is Omega, man.
He's a heel. He's a heel from like wrestling, right? Like he's just the bad guy, and that's awesome. One of the things that F. and I did, I think it was the playoffs. Bart was like, "All right, you're gonna do a pregame show." I think it was Bart. I don't remember who it was. He was like, "All right, we want you guys to do a pregame show. We're gonna pro player interview them." And me and F. were like, "Omega, it's gonna be awesome."
Yeah.
Because it was awesome. Omega has a great personality when properly played up. The fact that he's a bad boy, he's a heel, and I think that's so cool. I think that's totally okay. But I also think Omega does a good job of not crossing lines, right? Like, Omega's the guy that says, you can't beat me. I'm better than you. But he doesn't play, I don't think, like, he publicly says, like, you're horrible, you should probably uninstall this game. Right? Because that's crossing that line. He works it for himself to show himself, to, like, just be, to have an ego, to present that ego in a way that's I'm better than you and not you're bad. And that's basically
it's just
fine.
it's just intimidation now rather than, you know, it's the intimidation of Omega's presence and his stance rather than him trying to make you feel bad, which is a very good thing. Like I went up against him in Joust several times and like I would get so worried. I'm like, oh my god, it's Omega, dude. The things that I've heard this guy has said to people. And it's a game mode that
Yeah,
he doesn't
totally.
really care about. So like, I beat him in it the majority of the times we played and stuff, and I'm like, oh shit, maybe he like
All right,
fucking
stop
hates
talking
my
shit,
gear.
Shadow.
Yeah.
Stop talking shit.
Nah, I already said he didn't take it seriously, man. So I'm like, I'm like, I beat him in it, and I'm like, uh-oh, what's gonna happen? And I messaged him. I was like, yeah, this was a stupid matchup, like to be like, because it wasn't in my favor drastically. And then he was just like joked around and was like, yeah, that, oh well, man, that's how it is. And like he was really cool. I think he's done a good job of being much cooler and more approachable in the community, which is nice.
Bagel in chat having a really good tweet, which I've just retweeted, said a while ago, about last week, the difference between BM and confidence is whether you're speaking about your opponents or yourself. Like, dude, perfect. Yeah, exactly. And I think Omega speaks about himself. He's the best.
Yeah.
It's not that you're bad. You might be very good, but he's the best. You can't beat him. So I don't know, but like then you have people who I think are thrown into the limelight and they're not prepared. And to an extent, like I don't want to straight up say if someone suddenly becomes a professional player, they suddenly become a role model. I don't want to necessarily say that it's their fault. Well, I mean, it is their fault, but I don't want to say that we should blame them when they act like an asshole, if that's like how they are, right? Like some people are just kind of rude. That's a fact of life.
Yeah, that's
But when they're shoved into a role where they have to present themselves differently, it's their fault. The way that they're responsible for the way that they act, but I don't think it is necessarily like their fault if they don't know how to act accordingly. That's what I want to say.
Right.
The question is then
whose fault is it?
No, more like how do you educate those people?
Right, that's what I was gonna say. Like, where are they supposed to learn it from, though?
Yeah,
from their
yeah,
organizations? Yeah. Like, you think that the organizations should have like
and I don't
more
think
stern
esports is really at that level yet. At least in Smite, maybe other organizations probably do have PR guys like sit down and be like, "All right, don't tweet this."
Right.
Don't ever tweet anything even remotely racist.
Yeah.
But like Smite doesn't have people to do that. Maybe you have a coach who could be like, listen, Dare, before you tweet, think. And maybe you don't.
Maybe.
But then there's also different and then there's like Call of Duty, where it's like, all right, just find someone you hate and just tweet something mean at them every day. That's Call of Duty. At least from what I've seen on Drama Alert.
Yeah, I think that it makes it a lot more sportsmanlike, of course. Something that a lot more people want to get into, if they don't have that negative connotation of like angry gamers raging at each other and things like that. It just makes an overall more appealing environment. So I think it's something that we should really be putting our efforts into, and something that I honestly, as an objective, like spectator in most scenarios up until I joined with Eager now, was looking at organizations and was being like, wow, why would they allow their player to say this kind of thing? Like if that sort of situation arose. So I feel like it's something that more people are kind of expecting out of organizations now, and I think the organizations need to change along with that.
I think part of it is, Selectivist said, their parents are responsible. Should have taught them to be a decent human who respects others, and they are #tolerance and respect. Like, yeah, dude, that should have happened. It's really sad that it didn't, but at the same time, being like it's their parents' fault doesn't really fix anything, doesn't change anything. I think there should be like a solution, like a way. What do you do to teach these people how to act appropriately, and what is actually important? Like, what's the important way to act appropriately? What matters? And I think what it comes down to now, this is obviously like almost a Tumblr discussion.
Yes.
But how does being offended work is, I think, the key question here. And my answer, just sort of from the top of my head, would be like, or what is something offensive? And I think there's like a general body of things that you probably shouldn't say that could maybe hurt someone's feelings. And to be fair, like, that's legit. Like, dude, my dad has cancer, or had cancer, or something. I don't know. He's in remission or something. Like, if you say that queuing arena is cancer, it's like, that's weird for me. I'm not necessarily offended, but like, it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's like these sensitive topics that you know that people like you as a human being should know that other people are going to be affected by this, you know, even if it doesn't affect you, you know, maybe even if you're, you know, somebody very close to you had cancer or something, but you're very desensitized to, you know, the way that words work in different connotations and things. You got to understand that other people aren't. I just think it's about respect, you know, it's about respecting other people. And why would you really want to put yourself in that position where you might really upset someone that
I think there are two different things. There's this general body of things that are offensive, and this is a little bit of social commentary, but like, we all sort of know that. Now, it's different from culture to culture, and esports being global complicates this, but like, in America, there's this cloud of things that are offensive and you probably shouldn't talk about. And then there's the second level that's more like in the team stuff, your coach should manage it, and like player communications or attitudes and stuff, where it's like just how you act around the people around you, stuff like that. So I think a lot of it comes down to like, someone just needs to be there and be like, hey man, that hurts my feelings.
Right, yeah, it's just awareness of the, I guess, the consequences of what you say, you know, because it's not really self-awareness, like, yeah, they don't give a shit. They say whatever they want, like, it's not, as long as it doesn't offend me. Some people will just use that argument, you know, they'll be like, well, that's not offensive to me.
Yeah, it's not offensive to me, but like, some things aren't offensive to you because you don't relate to them. So like, I don't know, man. It's like, some things aren't offensive to you. There are things that aren't offensive to me that I don't say, because, like, they might be offensive to other people. At the same time, like, there's a limit. Bagel in chat jokingly says my ancestors had the Black Plague. Like, it's old enough that I think people can joke about that a little bit. Like, yes, it killed, like, the Black Plague killed a fuck ton of people. Like, a lot of people. But at the same time,
it's like being a member of society, you know what, you know what has the connotation that's going to upset someone. Like, I hate when people try to get like really cheeky like that, you know, and I'm going to use cheeky here. This is my first time using it in this real setting, but you know, they try to just act like, oh, well, you know, a big one is rape, right? They'll be like, why can't I say I'm sorry for using it in this, you know, I'm quoting other people.
Well, you're mentioning and you're not using, so you're good.
Right. So people will be like, why can't I say, oh, I just raped that asshole instead of like, oh, I just murdered that guy? Because like, murder doesn't have the same connotation as rape. It's not, you know.
You know what? You know what? My favorite thing. This actually comes from Durgius. He says that guy got rinsed. I just did his dishes. Right. I think that's hilarious.
All right.
That makes me smile as I'm beating kids up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just think to an extent that sort of stuff is potentially offensive, at best, not necessary, like, etc. But then, like, and also, just to be fair, Chad, there's a difference between using a word and mentioning it, otherwise you would never be able to talk about anything remotely offensive. You have to be able to talk about things, that's still important. Styling on some kids, sure, that's fine. Shrek is actually kind of a awkward reference, so
yeah.
It's like, that's
I
like,
don't think anybody thinks about this original
the original reference is like child molestation, not really cool. Fucked on is also like and what's shocking, right, is the terminology that people use once again, like, to say get raped is so deep, right? Like, there's so many different levels of the way we do it. Get fucked on, get destroyed, spread cheeks. Like, there's so many different levels that people use to to essentially allude to the same thing. It's actually kind of disturbing when you
It's
think
scary.
about it.
It really is, yeah. How did that kind of concept become so prevalent?
Incredibly prevalent in video games. Disturbingly
nuts.
prevalent in video games. I think part of it, obviously, because video games is a male-dominated culture and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
patriarchy, blah, 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 blah. But, like, it is shocking how deeply ingrained in gamer culture that is. Absolutely shocking. Destruction's fine. But, like...
Yeah, in no game are you ever in a situation that that you're trying to
Like,
molest
not even
someone.
Rockstar
That's,
has done that, I don't think.
So that's the thing that
And
is
Rockstar's
weird.
done
Why do-
everything.
It's it's true. Why do we associate like molestation with destroying someone? That's a
That's
scary
also pretty
conversation to
kind of
have.
disturbing.
Yeah.
I don't really want to
Exactly.
go into that just because,
Yeah.
but just think about the start of that conversation.
Right.
Gives
and
me the
that's what I think-
heebie-jeebies.
And I think that's why people really need to consider, what they're saying more and like the impact of where it's coming from and the kind of effect that it has, really.
Yeah, but man, I don't know. Like, I don't want to get into like the Tumblr and Reddit and MRA side of this conversation. And to an extent, like, talking shit is important to video games. It's important to like all sports. Like, even what is it? I think basketball. There's a rule where you can't engage in with your opponent in a certain way after you score a whatever it's called, a hoop, whatever. After you put the ball in the hoop, you can't just be like fucking
touchdown.
I'm better than you. Yeah, after you're playing basketball and after you score a touchdown, you can't just be like
touchdowns.
I'm the fucking best. You're garbage. Get shit on. You can't do that. I'm pretty sure that's against the rules. A basket, that's right. But at the same time,
I thought you were joking. Oh my god.
No, I
That's
just
why
totally
was
forgot
trying
the
to
word.
Joke with you. Holy
I totally
shit.
forgot the word.
I'm
But
done
at the
here,
same
folks.
time, like, players will still just like be like, and just death stare the camera. Or not the camera. I'm death staring the camera, but like death stare the person they scored on, right? Because that's the same thing. You can't really ban that. They're just looking at them. So like talking shit, taunting in some way is a part of sports.
Oh yeah,
It's literally half of why people like hockey.
Right, and it's part of people's character. When you're a professional player in anything, you're establishing a persona for yourself, a character for yourself that that you really want
Sure.
to be able to freely do.
You're
whatever it is you
intrinsically
do.
branding yourself.
Exactly, yeah. Like on my stream, I'm gonna be honest. On my stream, I'll be talking shit all the time. I make a big announcement usually whenever somebody that was in my game shows up in chat. I'll be like, "Listen, if you go back and watch the VOD, homie, I was not. None of that was directed at you. That is, imagine I am talking to the god that I'm facing and not you, because I 100% don't want to offend anyone or make them.
You're not
think
trying to
that
hurt
I'm
people's
talking to
feelings.
them. Yeah, I'm just getting myself pumped up, and I'm trying to give a good show for the chat. It's not that I'm trying to ever shame somebody else. So, but I think that's an important thing to realize and to still be able to do in a good way. I don't know if I do it in the perfect way. I'm not a saint, but yeah.
But there's a way to talk shit without like, man, I hate that this word is like a joke now, without triggering people. I think that's a really important word. I hate that it's a joke.
Yeah.
There's a way to talk shit without triggering people, and I think get shit on is like awkward. I think that's such an awkward way to talk shit. Yeah. Why is the entire like all of the language based around smack talk just feces? Why is all of it shit? I don't get it. But at the same time, like, there's so many creative and interesting ways to inform someone that you are 10 times better than them than saying get raped. So one of my favorites is I think it was Call of Duty, man. The YouTube video of the guy that goes, "Look at my bank account. Look at my bank account. Look at my bank." Like, that's the fucking best. There's so many ways to talk poop. So many ways to talk shit that are just so much more interesting and aren't triggering and aren't offensive. That's awesome. And
Right.
you know, like in the heat of the moment, sometimes it can be really dynamic and interesting just to say get dumpster, get shit on, etc. But I think we need more diversity in the way that we talk smack to each other. And you can use almost anything, right? Like I had a series of YouTube videos where I just like instead of shit talk, I would name the title something that was like phrased like shit talk, but it was like just doing something nice for somebody, like took him out to dinner. I just took this kid out to dinner. Like that, like you know that's shit talk, even though the words are completely not shit talk. It's really weird. But yeah, man, like, and I also think that's an important part about being a pro player, like engaging in that activity of smack talk and really rivalry is I think what it is, without being a complete piece of shit. Without ruining your reputations or hurting people's feelings or whatever. And I think that's really important as well. But you know, just to get back to it, man, like we mentioned it, like part of being a pro player is branding yourself. People look up to you, people idolize you. You're trying to be the best at what you do. And actually, I want to address this. Oduro in chat, mid laner of Legion. The whole idea of shit talk was to piss people off and get in their heads. The easiest way to do it is to say something offensive that you know is a subject you shouldn't talk about, but will for sure get a reaction. Yeah, kind of, but like, I don't think we need to go to that level, though.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, there you go. Talked him into bed, sent him into bed without supper. Like, I think that still has a similar cognitive effect. In fact, I think it's even a little more annoying. Because at some point, you just get desensitized to like the horrible smack talk people use. And then you just fire back and it's just pointless. But I think intelligent, creative smack talk is hilarious to watch and listen to. But yeah, man, like pro players I think are intrinsically branding themselves. And I think part of it is being a role model to some extent. Now that's not for every player. There's some players that like aren't really role models at all. Like I don't think there are many people, well, I don't know. Like can you think of an example of a pro player that's just not really a role model? I'm not saying they're not a good role model. I'm just saying that they are not a role model. Like on a decent team.
Yeah, I don't know. Other than no.
I wanted to say the best, but like,
yeah,
he probably was still a role model. Like, he was quite young. He played Smite very well. Like, he like wore his Dignitas jersey or sweatshirt to high school, probably, right? Like, that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, and I know he has a lot of very diehard fans too. So.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much anyone that puts themselves out there,
unless like no one, unless your team has like poor branding and like nobody knows who you are.
Then you fly completely under the radar.
Which you fly under the radar. Members of upcoming stars, like their coach analyst Kretuhtuh, right? Nobody knows who the fuck he is.
Yeah.
But
oh my god.
Probably just some random. But like no, but like then that changes, right? Either your team breaks up, which is unfortunate if any team breaks up. Unless, you know, some way I profit of it, in which case it's very fortunate. And I suggest that you break up immediately. Like, there are some teams that just fly under the radar, but will then eventually grow.
Yeah, I guess I would say upcoming stars definitely the team that I know the least about out of any. Hi-Rez, I don't know a thing about Hi-Rez.
I think that's also a problem with the EU scene in general. Like, what EU player do you know the most about? I'll give you a hint. Yeah, it's Suntouch. Yeah, totally Suntouch. He's like, I don't know, man. Like everyone knows Suntouch, but like, who is number 2? Maybe Trixtank.
I was gonna say Raffer.
Yeah, maybe Raffer.
Raffer's
got a decent personality. Yeah, he's out there. He's got a decent brand. I don't know.
Yeah, Trixtank.
There aren't that many.
No, it's true.
Suntouch is
Young
the
Bay
last
has
of the
quite a personality about him.
Youngbei is hilarious, man.
Yeah.
I loved Youngbei the first time I saw after he won the launch event and he bought a Louis Vuitton belt. And like the most like Louis Vuitton belt there is. Like the belt buckle was an LV. Right? And there are people in chat who are like saying Confrey, Youngbei,
Zapman,
etc. Yeah, Zapman, a very well-known EU player. Warchi is huge in the Spanish community, so I would definitely say him as well. But there is definitely a branding issue. Like,
yeah, I think 100% there is. That's why a lot of people.
So Fnatic, right? Like, I think TSM right now, you could say they're the best team in NA. At least, like, just looking at the current split, they've got the best score. Or no, they don't have the best score. C9 has the best score.
Right now.
Yeah, C9 has the best score. But I want to talk about
looking objectively. Yeah.
I want to talk about TSM anyway. Like, TSM's very good. And when you look at them and you're like, Snoopy, you still kind of like know who Snoopy is. You kind of know what he's like. Whereas, like, if I look at a team in a similar position, which right now is Fnatic, just in terms of score, I think Reels people know a fair bit about, and Captain Twig streams, but what the fuck do people know about Zeros?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't even know how to pronounce his name.
I'm pretty sure it's just Zeros.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Still,
man,
yeah.
like, I lost faith in EU names when I saw Moex. I just looked at his name and I was like, I have no fucking idea. I don't know how to pronounce
I know
that.
Blue for Zeros, but I don't know why it's Blue for Zeros. You know that?
No, I
People
don't.
change their name to Blue in chat for Zeros, and I don't know why.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's what you do, though. But yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. That's yeah. I think
Yeah,
Stars
chat's just
definitely-
like Zeros is scary.
Yeah,
That's what we
yeah.
know about him, and he's a scary. He's a scary player. To an
Yeah,
extent,
yeah.
I think he expressed
That's that
himself through his
picture,
play,
yeah.
but like, I feel like people don't know that much about him. Even apparently I have to check Skype.
I was about to relay that message to you, but I'm sure you see it.
Yeah, even a player like Cyclone Spin, who has very little public personality, has a clearly evidenced personality in the way that they perform their game, and I think part of that has to do with also the way that Hi-Rez people talk about and like casters talk about players, but I think they still do that to a similar extent for the EU team. So I don't really know what the difference is.
I think you have a really strong point that it is a lot of the branding of your image. A lot of the reason I feel like people undervalue undervalue EU teams and like don't favor them as much as NA as a spectator is because they don't see enough of them. They don't know enough about these players. Like NA, almost every player has character, and you don't get to see it as much of the EU. I don't know if it's because Hi-Rez is located in North America, everything like that, and there's more of that. You see these players actively more, but I don't know, man. It's unfortunate, honestly, because the EU scene is fucking incredible. Like, you just gotta have to do a little bit of digging, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that sucks. Part of it, though, I just feel like there are less EU streamers. Okay,
That's true. That's true.
But to an extent, do you think Hi-Rez has favored NA for reasons other than the fact that Hi-Rez lives in NA and can fly them out to events for much less money?
That's a good question. Damn, I don't know. Because I mean, the players, like I said, they have more character. You know them more, but I don't know if that's because.
But yeah,
Hi-Rez,
is it
It's hard to
cognitive
tell.
bias because
Yeah.
I'm from NA? And to an
Right.
extent, I think it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've gotten in ranked games and talked to Snoopy on Curse, and like now I know who Snoopy is. And I think to an extent that makes NA favorable and marketable, and the SPL casters live in North America because they live in Atlanta, so they do that too, and they queue on NA. At the same times, I've got into EU games and played on the same team as like EU pro players and played against IRAFer, but nobody was on Curse, so I didn't learn anything about anybody.
That's very true. Yeah. People don't.
And actually, I
much.
think that is a point, though. I think the lack of EU players being on Curse in streams
Yeah, there's an overall lack of communication. You don't
But
know these players.
it also like when I watch Zapman stream, I can learn a little bit about Snoopy because he's on Curse with Zapman or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, you hear the discourse, you hear them joking around with each other, and you just don't see that in EU.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I think that's an important point.
to an extent, like once again, not completely defending Hi-Rez, but you do have to account for the fact that they live in North America, and so like doing stuff in EU is definitely different. And
Oh yeah.
there are legitimate reasons that EU players don't use Curse, but like they don't. That's just a fact. Language is definitely a huge part of that, and attitudes are definitely a huge part of that, but they don't, and that's a fact.
And it's definitely it's 100% fact because I watch Suntouch's stream a lot, and I've yet to learn anything about a player that isn't on LC because I just it's not
Because you
there.
don't hear
There's
anything.
no
Yeah.
evidence.
Yeah. Do I think EU servers having issues playing the fact that EU players don't notice them much? No. I think EU servers having issues sucks. Like that sucks, man. I'm sorry that you have to deal with that, but I don't think that affects the visibility of EU players. Like if EU servers were better, I wouldn't play on EU, but like and part of it does have to do with I think casters and players like living in North America, and every so often you see like Matty Pocket in your casual game and you're like, oh hey Matty, and like you know a little bit more about him. And to an extent I think it's that NA teams have historically been more marketable like since the get-go, right? Like you had Curse and you had Root, and in EU you kind of had Copenhagen Wolves, but like maybe only Spoo talked and he wasn't really in the scene anymore, and we really hardly knew anything about Hiraka or Badja at all. Like for Copenhagen Wolves, people knew some stuff about Spray Iron and they knew about Spoo, and that was kind of, and maybe a little bit Young Bay, but that was basically it. So maybe it's like has to do with the history as well. I think it's probably a really, really complex issue.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at here. And I think there's a lot of factors, but at the same time, it is clearly evidence that EU players are less well known than NA players. As a result, not entirely, but partially as a result, they are less marketable than NA players. There's a lack of NA streamers for whatever reason, or EU streamers for whatever reason, and I think that's weird. With the exception of like Warchi and Suntouch doing fairly well for themselves. Who else streams in EU and is quite successful, right? Like,
right. I mean, Hindu Man, as people are saying in chat, he's definitely like the face of EU, and it's funny because he's not a player, you know.
It's like Hindu Man and Suntouch are like Europe,
right?
And they both live in the UK.
Yeah,
they're not even like the UK is like not even that European.
Right. And
we need like a
it's
great
the only place in
Scandinavian
Europe.
player.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But like part of the point that I'm proving about like just NA casters relating to NA players is like Hinduman does have a massive amount of EU knowledge because that's where he lives and he talks to these players and he knows them. Now there are obviously some players and casters that are somewhat more relating to EU players than others, but like there's also Twitch not favoring EU players as much, and I think that's a vicious cycle. So for those of you who don't know, a vicious cycle is something that like is the result of itself, right? So like I don't have a car, and because I don't have a car, I can't get to work, so I can't get a job, and because I don't have a job, I can't get a car, and that's just a circle, and like I'm just kind of fucked. And I think to an extent a lack of EU streamers is caused by a lack of people watching EU streamers, which is caused by a lack of EU streamers. And I think that's partially a vicious cycle. And like, there's a lot of stuff going on now. So maybe it just like got started off that way. I don't really know, but I would absolutely love to, see more presence from EU. And there are also teams that are more marketable. Like, I don't fucking know what. Actually, it probably has to do with the rhetoric coming around. Shit, man. Me and F-Top might be responsible for this to some extent, right? Like, I think Titan is a very very marketable EU team.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of that has to do with the rhetoric around Titan and their story going into Worlds. It's the Cinderella story, right? From rags to riches, from the Challenger Cup to Worlds, getting second place.
It's true.
I don't think the Year House is going to move to EU, but
You know, it was really also very something that drew me into the EU scene more was the video that Hi-Rez did for Ataraxia when
yeah, totally.
when he was brought to Worlds. That was amazing. You know, we have more of things like that, and it's just so much more of a pull towards that side of the community. Just so much more of an entrance into the player's world. You know, it was really, really cool. I encourage you guys to watch that if you haven't seen it before.
I remember I actually really like those videos. I thought they were really cool.
Yeah.
I remember for Worlds I worked with press, and part of it was for press week. I was doing the esports thing with it was me, Lionheart, Weekend, and Incon, and we watched the Barracuda video like 5 times. Like,
yeah.
I have seen Barracuda getting out of bed so many more times than I needed to. And then the part where he like sits on the mountain. But like even then, I know that video more than I know Ataraxia's. And Ataraxia is my boy. Like, I have him added on Skype. I don't have Barracuda on Skype. Do you know Ataraxia has 2 first names? His name is Nate Mark. He has 2 first names. Yeah, dude.
Damn.
Like, and he's a really cool dude, but even him, who I think would be quite marketable, even him isn't that popular. And so yeah, like, I don't know.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
And part of it, so Slacktiv is bringing this up, Replicas and Country wouldn't have a chance to live by streaming stream income in Denmark. You get like $250 as a sub per sub, 50% of that goes to the state, etc. because of taxes, and bag of bread costs $3, and that sucks. But like, part of being part of being a pro player is also diversifying your income, right? Like, streaming and YouTube and sponsorship and merchandise and tournament winnings and SPL, like the list goes on. So that's definitely part of it, and it's part of the issue. Like, I don't think there are many pro players that can make a living. No,
it's very short, a very short list.
Well, I also think part of it is more support of the EU scene and supporting the right people, because I think. And this is like really speculating something I don't know much about, but it seems to make sense to me that if you get 1 or 2 or a few more EU pro players that are really marketable, adapting because of his raw mechanical skill, Ataraxia because he's basically American, then maybe that could open the door to more pro players getting more marketability. I don't know. But at the same time, damn Dare. Shit, just dropping bombs in chat. Oh man. Woo. Woo, I think I'm blushing a little bit. Woo. Alright, anyway. Yeah, NA dominant streaming, and that's a fact, but like, I think there's so many factors in there. Partially, I think Hi-Rez is to blame to an extent, but I don't think it's entirely them.
Yeah, a lot of it is working your own self-image. Like we said, you have to create that image, you know. And I don't know if I can blame the players for not doing enough.
And actually, I think part of it is some of the OG EU players who do stream stop playing Smite. Proxy's not here anymore. Like, that's Proxy's name,
Game Hunter, even
back in the day, was Twitch TV Proxy QQ. His name was literally his Twitch TV URL. Like, he was that guy. He didn't play Smite anymore because he's banned, and like Sayo like left, and so yeah, just sort of. I don't know, man. Like, I think part of it is damn Dare.
Yeah, I was about to say,
dude.
Speaking of,
I'm about to
censoring yourself.
Like, I'm about to go like pick up my mic stand, go in there, and start breaking his fingers. Shit, I need to lock my door before he comes in there. Anyway, Proxy's banned for being an asshole or something. But like, I think there's a lot of factors. I think part of it is to an extent Hi-Rez. I think part of it is to an extent situations involving the EU streamers. So like, I don't know, man. It sucks. Shit. I know it's Tara.
No.
Oh shit, he's just coming for the cheese balls. Alright, we're good. We're good. We made just took my cheese balls, man. I'm mad. I'm salty. Alright, so anyway,
I'm watching it now.
yeah,
that delay,
right?
the delay.
Oh, it was good. Quality banter. So, but I think to an extent, we've touched on the sort of things you need to think about if you want to understand why EU is less popular on Twitch.
Yeah, and I think
what's the solution?
That's what I like to talk about. Regardless of what the reasoning is, you have certain people thriving. Like you have Suntouch absolutely thriving, one of the most successful Smite streamers right now. And it's he works for it, man. He puts so much effort into it. He grows his own community. He's very very comfortable with his viewers, things like that. It creates a very kind of like family feel to his stream, like most of the successful streamers do. And I think regardless of the unfortunate circumstances, whatever is putting EU in this tough kind of spot that they're in, just perseverance, it shows with people like Suntouch, does work out for you.
Well, I think Suntouch also got in at the right time, in the right way, marketed himself properly. I don't want to call it luck. But it's sort of like there were a number of chance-based things that happened at the same time, and the result is that Suntouch is quite a popular streamer, right? And it's not hard. Even not giving him credit. It's like he's a likable guy who started streaming at the right time and with the right consistency, and had good. He stuck to his schedule and he marketed himself properly, and all these different things that he did well, and he had dope emotes, and he's he just conducted himself well and did it right, and props to him. But I think he also not all of those things will happen for everyone. Not all of those things will happen for every streamer, and I think to an extent they have for most of the very popular streamers in Smite. But and actually, here's another point from Not XOX Optic, which was a mouthful. I think a lot of the EU players don't interact with the community as well. And I think there is not a great presence from EU SPL players on Twitter, which is definitely not Hi-Rez's fault.
Yeah.
Completely not their fault. But
there's a lot of maliciousness that goes on too, and I don't know where that started.
Yeah, I think the EU challenger scene right now is the thing where you look at it and you're like, ugh. But EU SPL's decent. They're not that bad, except for maybe iRaffer.
Yeah.
No, but looking at the teams, the Night's Watch, who tweets the most from that team? NQ, maybe. Maybe Zindern, right? NQ or Zindern. Trig, who tweets the most? Fucking nobody. Upcoming Stars, who tweets the most? Flareboot. Team Dignitas, who tweets the most? I don't know. Variety? Shadow Nightmare? Lone Conspiracy, who tweets the most? That's easy, it's Suntouch.
Yeah.
Epsilon, who tweets the most? Probably iRaffer. Fnatic, who tweets the most? The number one team in EU, considered by a lot of people, Fnatic. Which one of them uses Twitter?
I mean, I know I see Reels. I follow
from
Reels.
Time to time, but he does not tweet often.
No, I know. I see
He's good at
every
it.
once in a while.
He's good at it, but it is not often.
Yeah, even Twig, who's so popular with the Joust community and other things too. You don't see him that much on Twitter.
Totally. Yeah. And then
Titan, you just Comfrey is very popular.
Comfrey tweets a lot. Yeah, Comfrey's pretty good about it, and Coach is quite good on Twitter as well. But even then, compared to any teams, there is much less Twitter interaction. Right.
If you look at the follower counts, things like that, and
follower counts as well. But I think that's also a side effect of streaming and stuff. You know who tweets from EU the most? Flair and Prime's girlfriend. Shout out to Blame the Tank. Got it. Dead on. Yes.
Oh my
Oh yeah,
God.
Maniac tweets a lot too. From Fnatic. But like, who tweets in NA? Well, from C9, Barracuda, Jeff, occasionally Ennenster. From TSM, Gars, kinda. The TSM honestly not that good at marketing themselves.
No, yeah, TSM really kind of lacking there. Like they sort of, if they weren't in the immense spotlight that they were in from you know getting themselves there talent-wise, they no one
When
would know
Dare
much
entered
about
the
these
room,
players.
this
Like
was
Boosh,
full.
I don't know anything about
he
Boosh,
ate
other than that
half of
he
this
is a god
in the
you know?
last 10
That's all we
minutes.
know. It's mostly based on the cast.
Sorry, I was talking about my cheese balls. Like AFK though, I think you've got like Allied, right? For Legion, Pern, for Eager, Lasses, Zap, me. I tweet the most by far.
Yeah.
But I think all of Eager has a pretty good
That
Twitter
Shadow guy,
presence.
he's good. That you know.
Shadow, yeah, great on
Yeah,
Twitter. Definitely should follow him at Eager and Shadow right above his face. Denial, Shadow Q, some Shing.
Yeah, some Shing.
And then like, and for TSM, like I'm not even talking about TSM as an organization marketing their Smite team. Like Spiff's already talked about it. I don't even need to say anything. Watch his video. He nails it.
Yeah.
TSM as players, I don't think do a good job of marketing themselves. Aurora does have a Twitter, yeah. Thirst tweets totally count, dude. Totally count. You know who else is big in Wolfie? That's not even, or who's big in NA that doesn't even have a team? I always say is Wolfie. Like he tweets a fair amount. Cog doesn't tweet that much.
So it's all about like wanting to brand yourself, though. As you can see, you know, even if you're not on a team like Wolfie, it's about putting your image out there. So like,
yeah, I mean, but to an extent, I think Wolfie was already a fairly big personality and on Twitter and stuff like that.
That's true. That's true.
And Twitch and yeah.
But you know, you can be on the most successful team and have no like public spotlight on you, like we were talking about with the players of TSM that don't tweet much. You know, so I guess like, is that a bad thing though? Do you think? If they're not putting themselves out there as much,
I think it's a missed opportunity.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. It's the big thing. Like players aren't realizing that, you know, being in the position that they are, they have so much opportunity to, you know, cater to their fan base, interact with the community, things like that. Just open up so many more doors for you. Being known is just so important, and being well liked, of course, is important.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it is a missed opportunity, but the point stands that like by default, part of being a pro player, part of making money as a professional player right now, obviously you could just win worlds. C9, you could do that. You could totally do that. But part of being a pro player is also marketing yourself well. I don't know if Herwin tweets because he blocked me. I don't even know why he blocked me. But
Damn.
Yeah, dude.
Shit on.
I know,
See?
man.
Shit on. There it is.
I know, man. Dude, please. That offends me, okay? Alright, Loki shit in the house, like, yesterday, and it offends me if you talk about it. But, like, I feel like EU and TSM, another team, criminally under-marketing themselves. But EU as well, I think, does a lot of under-marketing, right? There are some great players with great personalities, and a lot of the personal branding as well is very important. But I also think the Smite community is conditioned through like years of just the way it's been to not pay attention to the EU scene in terms of personalities. We just don't, man. And partially that's Hi-Rez's fault, for sure. But partially it's also EU players historically not interacting with the community as much. And I think it's really a shame. And I'd really like to see more. But like no, people totally visit EU streams, man. Like I was at Hi-Rez in October and there were people like watching Azalea's stream. We watched him get like a Scylla ult kill over a wall. It was dope. But like I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think like we said, like unfortunately, regardless of how, since we can't pinpoint exactly the reasoning, that they have to put a little bit more effort into it.
Well,
If they really
everyone
want to
does.
bridge that
Everyone
gap.
does.
Oh
It's
no,
the
I
EU
mean like
players branding
yeah,
themselves better. It's Hi-Rez branding EU more. It's the
right. That's true.
casters engaging more with the EU community. It's the EU community engaging more with everybody. Like,
Yeah, I meant for you,
all
like
that
for
has to
you
happen.
as an EU player, as yourself, you're at a disadvantage right now. You have to put
Definitely.
forth more effort than an NA player
Definitely.
would. So that's what I meant. Yeah.
Which really sucks. But
Yeah, it
hey,
does. But yeah, these are the hands we are dealt, friends.
they are indeed. But wait. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know what Flair's talking about. That's true, that does happen, but Flair, your challenger scene is in disarray.
I haven't even been able to keep up with the amount of things that have been going on in this.
Seriously. It's fucking crazy. Shit. But I mean, and so here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that just happened in chat, and I want to talk about because I think it's important. Flairboot says like, at least EU players haven't been banned for being racist, and that's like true. There are NA players who have been banned for like really poor behavior. And Meerkat responds, generalize the entire continent on two players' actions unrelated to the discussion. And, you know, like, whatever. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. People do that naturally, dude. We generalize naturally. We say, this dude said this thing, therefore his entire team, his entire region, his entire, like, everyone he associates with thinks that. Like, that is a natural cognitive process that people do. People do generalize. People do look at one person and say, oh, Weekend's attitude represents all of AFK. Mm-hmm. And that sucks, dude.
That's why PR is
but
so
it's
important
so
right
important. It's so important. People look at Dare to Care and they say, what Dare said, Lassus thinks that too. Mm-hmm. Which is probably untrue, because Dare's from frickin' Mississippi. And, like, I don't think they have ever thought the same thing in their life. And that sucks, but you have to think about it. You have to think about it if you're a pro player, because you represent yourself, your brand, your team, and to an extent, your region. And that sucks. It's a lot of pressure, but I think it's just like part of the game. It's marketing. And part of gaming culture, part of Twitch, part of YouTube is marketing yourself. It's absolutely vital. I mean, just look at, like, popular YouTubers, or even unpopular YouTubers, the people that, like, tweet at Keemstar, and they're like, hey, man, look at my YouTube, and he's, like, blocked, right? I love Keemstar, he's so funny. But, like, look at their YouTube videos, they all have, like, these, like, pictures that's, like, Dry Bear, perfect example. Let me find, like, a Dry Bear video real quick. But you know what I'm talking about, Shadow? Like, with the like pictures that have like this like flashy text.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
It's essential marketing. It's something cognitive. So like, here we go. 5 months ago, Smite Chalk gameplay dash wait for it. Dry Bear Gamers, and it's like a dope picture of Chalk, and it says Smite, and it says Chalk gameplay. That's marketing, dude. That's part of the game. It's so vital to the way that you represent yourself. And I think one of the bigger parts about that a lot of players don't fully realize is the way that you represent yourself, your team, your country, your region, your organization. Like, you represent so many things. Your role. Hell, like, if one jungler is BM, people be like, oh, all junglers are BM. And that's natural. You can't, like... I want to say you can't even fault them for that. Like, that's just the way that people think. Programmed to do it. And so you have to think about your brand. And you have to think about public relations. Or you're gonna fuck yourself, and you're gonna fuck your team. I think it is vital to being a pro player. Now, you can just do nothing, and that's fine. You probably won't make YouTube money. You probably won't make Twitch money. And I don't think there's really Twitter money. If there is, like, someone let me know. But you can totally fuck your team by being a dick.
Right, and another part is what Spiff said in chat earlier. Actually, he made a comment about like what TSM is doing very often in their general way of going about it. You can tell it's kind of like what certain pro athletes do with putting their all into their play and letting it speak for itself. But it's not so much creating an image for themselves that's marketable. And it's if things ever go sour or they switch communities, things like that, it's kind of putting them in a rough spot. Sure, you were on this championship team, and that's amazing. You have all these, accolades, but who are you, And if people don't know you, then that's a big problem.
Yeah, and then the way that you represent yourself is crucial to making money. Like, what was it, 2 years ago? More than 2 years ago, probably 3 years ago at this point. Lasses started streaming Smite as his job. DM Brandon did the same thing, and none of them can do that if they don't brand themselves well. It's absolutely vital. You can't avoid it if you want to make gaming a full-time job. Unless you fucking win Worlds, you could totally try and do that too. But good luck, because everyone wants to, and it's hard work. But yeah, like, you gotta brand yourself well, man. You gotta think about PR. You gotta not be a complete asshole. And it's not that hard. Honestly, it isn't. You just are like, is what I'm saying potentially offensive? And if you cannot answer no, even if you're like, I don't know, just don't fucking do it. Just say nothing. Because that's fine. That's
Right.
neutral. The status quo is you not saying anything. But like, if you want to work on developing your brands, promoting yourself more, working with Twitch, man, I'm sure you could reach out to someone at Hi-Rez and they would be happy to help you. I'm sure you can send a message to like Adam and be like, hey man, I want to grow my brand. What can I do? Who can I talk to? Who can give me some pointers here? And I'm sure they've got someone who like would love to help. But it's hard work, and it's just built into the job of playing professionally. Like, you represent something.
I think each pro team should have a PR manager that actively talks to the players like once a week or something. Even once a fucking month, Just like see where they're at, check out what they've been up to, things like that. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's so important for organizations to do.
Yeah. And, the other part of it, honestly, I think right now in the SPL, most people are pretty good, right? Like, there aren't that many, even the SPL players who are, like, the bad boys and the assholes, like Daredekar and Omega, like, they're fine. They're heels. They're not complete dickwads. We can as well. Hell, we can call them a heel. I guess we're rounding up, but that's fine. Like,
Damn.
no, but, like, it's okay. The problem is, I think, the Challenger Cup scene who, like, don't quite get it yet. They haven't hit the big time. They're not in the SPL, so maybe it doesn't matter as much. Maybe they're not as professional. I don't know, but they're not in general. It's really more the EU Challenger scene. Honestly, I'm basically talking about Six Sigma, but there's the other team, Laser Unicorns, as well. Like, they went in on Twitter the other day, too. Like,
Did you say laser unicorns?
yeah, they're like 4th seed EU Challenger Cup or something. I don't know.
See, I did not.
My point is that, like, I think that's where a lot of the people can make a negative brand for themselves. Because, honestly, real talk, the Challenger Cup has not mattered unless you were Eager, Epsilon, or Gilitas when they became Kagakila.
And Potato Boys.
Yeah, and to an extent Potato Boys, but only because of Suntouch.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
people in the Challenger Cup have not had the opportunity to make any branding for themselves in any way that isn't negative.
It's true.
Like, oh, and Legion, of course. Yeah, Pern as well.
Yeah.
But, like if you're not already someone that people know, you don't have the opportunity... Ooh, God, I just punched my mic. You don't have the opportunity to brand yourself in any way that isn't negative.
Right.
And that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot about first impressions too, because people don't know you,
True.
right? So they hear this one really bad thing that happened with you involved, and then whoop, suddenly you have a terrible reputation.
Yeah. You gotta be careful, man. So yeah. Anyway, guys, it's been a hot hour and a half. It's hard
Is it
work
literally
to
hot?
build
Do
a
you have air
brand.
conditioning over there?
I've been moving around a lot, Shadow. I'm kind of warm. Okay. So yeah, it's been a hot hour and a half. I hope you enjoyed the show. I've been Krett. This has been my boy Shadow. Shadow, where can the people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at NShadow, guys, or on Twitch at NShadow.
And you can find me right up here. VOD's gonna be on YouTube in, why the fuck am I saying this? Y'all watch the stream. VOD's gonna be on YouTube in, after it processes, maybe 2 hours. I don't know. It's been a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for coming out. I love you all. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace out, guys.